Welcome to episode 24 of the Fashion Feed podcast. I'm going to be releasing the episodes weekly at the moment, and I feel this is a really incredible episode to put out because Sara is so positive, she's so colourful, and I highly recommend that you go and follow her. Sara Brown is a plus size designer, podcaster and influencer, even though she's not actually that keen on the term. She's launching her own brand after having worked in the industry for about 6 years as a designer. And we couldn't actually remember how we met, so we decided it was the universe, aka Instagram, that brought us together. And I'm so happy that it did. This episode is such a ray of sunshine and positivity. We discuss what the current plus size offer looks like on the high street at the moment. Brands are providing people with what they need rather than what they want. And we also have a chat about who's offering great plus size collections, the logistics of grading plus size fashion, why Sara wants to provide women with colour confidence, which is a really, really interesting topic. We also touch upon Sara's wedding dress because it was incredible, and also tips on how you can design more inclusively if you're looking to do that as a brand, or if you're listening just as an avid fashion lover, how you can experiment with colour personally in your wardrobe as well, because Sara is a queen. When I went to go and meet her, she had a bright green leopard print patterned boiler suit with like 15 diamante hair clips, and I was just absolutely in awe of how incredible she looked. So she is forever my style inspiration. So if you're feeling like you're stuck in a bit of a rut at the moment, then please go and follow her. She's just a dream. So without further ado, I hate that phrase. Here's Sara.
Are we recording now? Third time lucky. Welcome, Sara, to the podcast. On the way here, I realised I think I've been calling you Sarah for about 2 years. Your name's actually Sara. How many people do that?
All the time. I mean, thank you for actually realising before you got here, because, I mean, I live two lives, basically. I'm Sarah to some people. I'm just such a little, I don't say anything, and I just sit there and it's not my name. Oh, it's so bad. I really need to get some balls and actually say what my name is.
Well, now obviously people will be listening, and now they know that your name is Sara. So for anybody that doesn't know who Sara is, do you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Sara. I'm a plus size designer and influencer. I mean, I feel like literally everyone says I'm an influencer. I don't like using the term influencer. I'm not an influencer, but that's what I'm basically saying. So I suppose I've worked in the fashion industry for about 6 years, maybe a little bit longer if you include internships and things. And I've worked for brands such as Marina Rinaldi, which is Max Mara's plus size brand. And then more lengthily, if that's the correct term, I worked for ASOS as a designer.
I thought more lengthily was a brand.
Is it? No, I'm just trying to use fancy words. But no, so ASOS, I worked there for on and off for about 5 years. Kind of moving around different areas within the women's wear team. So I worked on print, on tailoring, but I suppose my heart always lied within ASOS Curve and within the specialist side of things. I also had a little bit of, I ran the ASOS Curve Instagram for a little while, but it was kind of strange because obviously it's such a massive thing, but it was always sort of being ran by the buying team or the design team, which was actually really nice because it meant that I suppose we were showing product that we were really excited about because we had designed it, we had worked on it, and so I suppose people were getting to see that. Okay, I'm just it's really odd. So basically, we've just interviewed Elizabeth for our podcast as well. So yeah, I'm also a podcaster at 88 Podcasts with my good friend Ella, who's actually sat with us right now. Exactly, this is a live podcast. So yeah, I feel like I'm actually quizzing you, but I need to get my head in the other mindset. So yeah, I'm a plus size designer. Since then I've left ASOS, and I'm now launching my own brand. called Dolly Rocket. You can find it at dollyrocket_London. And I suppose it's because I've always wanted more from the fashion industry and it's not providing it. And I basically just want to provide that for other people that might feel the same. So it's going to be inclusive of sizing. So hoping to be able to provide easily to be able to get a size 8 to a 32, but I'm also going to provide clothes outside of that size range. If you just get in contact with me, we can do custom sizing. And it's also going to be really colourful, fun and printed, because that is what I love. And it's still not there in the plus size industry. I think it's just something that like I am longing for. So hopefully we can get to that.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your IGTVs on the way here, and you were saying a lot of the plus size ranges tend to be quite dry, shall we say, like just not living up to the level of colour and excitement and fun. Because you do like to have fun when you get dressed, but some people just don't think that plus size people like that. I don't know, or that they want to hide, or they're either like super sexy or super grungy, and then there's nothing in between.
Yeah, I think definitely, from working, like designing plus size clothes, especially through like ASOS, and I mean, it's very different. So Marina Rinaldi it's much more expensive. So it's for like an older customer. So we kind of had to design for an older customer. And I suppose in that way, maybe necklines and stuff were quite different. But I suppose ASOS is very much where I buy clothes, so it sort of felt like I could put more of my impression of what I wanted from the fashion industry on them. So yeah, I was always having conversations about the fact like, oh no, let's try it in this bright colour, or let's try this print, it's really cool. I think it's just a lot of it is basically what's been ingrained throughout society, that you get to a certain size and you shouldn't wear things. And I think hopefully our mindset's changing away from that now, but it's still, I suppose, quite often ingrained in business. And a lot of companies, like big companies, they'll see success through the fact that they manage to sell thousands of black trousers or white t-shirts or nude coloured dresses. And, you know, because it's worked, time and time again, it's like, oh, well, this worked, so let's do it again. And I suppose it's really hard to break out of that cycle. So a lot of brands, even when they bring out their own plus size ranges, will be bringing out the basics. And I suppose, it's also understood that everyone needs a basic. So they're like, oh, well, we're providing them with what they need. But yeah, I mean, not what they want. Yeah, I think I'm also hoping to do an IGTV about this, talking about classics. And I think sometimes I relate this to sustainability. But the idea of a classic piece in your wardrobe is actually very dependent on who you are. So, I mean, as we were speaking when we met, you were saying that you wore a colourful jumper because you were meeting me, and I was like, that's totally fine if you wanted to wear like grey, because that's you. And it's like a classic to me is completely different to the girl next door who might want camel. But like, I think we just need to be providing those options, which the plus size industry, at the moment isn't really. Maybe you'll have like one amazing dress, but it's only occasional.
So who would you say is doing it quite well at the moment?
So I think ASOS, they are doing amazing. They are the leaders, I think, of bringing out just interesting stuff, and also providing clothes that are the same from a size 6 to a size 26. Most of the time now they're not changing the fit. They're just making sure that it works, basically. So when they're grading it up, they're basically just giving you what you'd be getting if you're a size 10. So I think that was also something that a lot of people campaigned about, that often designers would maybe do, say, a mini dress for a size 10, but then when they made it into a size 18 or higher, it would be maybe like a 50s prom style midi. And I think just more options. So ASOS is doing really well. New Girl Order, actually, that you've worked with, I think are really, really cool. But I think there's also some smaller brands that we've seen coming about. There's a brand called Loud Bodies, which is based in Romania, I think, and it was actually started by another curve influencer. And she creates really sort of beautiful pieces that she does across loads of sizes, and like she uses lots of different colours as well. I think some of her dresses are slightly like prairie style, which is quite nice. And yeah, I think a lot of these brands that are being started that are maybe providing for more sizes and for plus sizes, I suppose has come about through the rise of Instagram, through the rise of different voices and diversity within the platform, so people are able to start brands through that kind of audience.
I heard something about Instagram and the fact that it has given everybody a voice, and that's why I guess there's loads of things like why everyone knows each other these days, because they're like, oh, do you follow this person? Or but also it's not just one particular type of white male, or like not that there's anything wrong with that, but you know that there was that one voice before Instagram that you were either on the TV or on the radio or in politics, and that's what goes. But now with Instagram, like you say, you can build up an audience, get a seamstress to make whatever you want, and therefore you've got a brand kind of thing. And it's nice that brands are starting to grow from more interesting and unusual and just random places. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a background in fashion, and sometimes it's quite nice to have that naivety that you end up doing things in a really different way. So like maybe that Loud Bodies one, maybe she's seeing it from a user's point of view rather than like the industry's point of view, of like what you were saying earlier, like, well, this always sells, so this is what we should do. But it's like, but this is really cool, so I'm going to do it this way. So what would you say is, like, going back to your brand that you're launching soon, Dolly Rocket, is the purpose of it? It sounds a bit deep when you put it like that, but like, what's its USP, or what do you really want to create with that brand?
So I suppose it's always back to like your why story, which I think everyone asks nowadays, but I think it is creating colour confidence. So that's something that I suppose I discovered through working with a friend, but also life coach, that is something that I'm absolutely passionate about. And even before Dolly Rocket, that was always a purpose through my Instagram. And it is basically, I want to be able to provide plus size and every woman basically with clothes that are colourful and fun, but also I suppose my focus is always going to be plus size, because that is where my heart lies. So allowing people to dress the way that they actually want to dress. And you know what? I think so much of it is really selfish. I want to wear it. And I think I'm hopeful that if I want to wear it, other people want to wear it. Yeah, I feel like that's it. I basically just want to have the dresses that I see other people wearing and I can't buy. I think so. On our previous podcast, the one that Elizabeth did with us, we spoke about Ganni. And I think especially from working at ASOS, everyone's obviously really into trends, really like on, basically always on looking at what's new. And so many people were wearing amazing Ganni dresses, or like the fabulous kind of rotate dress that was like the pink, really big sleeve one from last year. And I was just like, oh, I wish I could buy that. But they were always stopping at a size 16. And so that kind of like premium to almost luxury level of fashion that I suppose you see on Street Style and you see on like WGSN and all of those kind of areas, they just were not available for me. So I'm a size 24 or sometimes 22 to 24 at the moment. So yeah, I can't even squeeze into their biggest size. I'm basically just bored. Yeah, I'm bored of that. So I really hope that I can kind of fill that area for everyone else as well.
Where do you think this like colour confidence thing has come from? So you were saying that you kind of made that discovery quite recently. How did that come about? Or is there anything that's happened, or like did you always wear colour when you were younger, or where has that come from?
So I feel like, yeah, this is a tale that I end up telling quite a lot, but I love it. So when I was younger, I think my mum was always into colour and she loved print. And I suppose I saw the way she dressed, and actually initially I wanted to rebel against that. Like, I saw her friend who liked minimal things. She was more into natural kind of colours and earthy tones. I suppose this was also in the 90s, so cream was king. But I always wanted, like, I felt like that was really cool, and I'd really tried, but literally that probably lasted a couple of months, and I bounced into like my natural habitat of wearing colour and wearing print. And I think because possibly I just wore a little bit more colour or a little bit more print than most other people, it was always my recognisable kind of aesthetic, and people therefore then talked about that and saw me as the colourful one. And then when I started getting into designing and I suppose studying at university, colour was always something that I worked with, and again I always dressed that way. So I think it was something that my tutors really tried to push within me. I suppose, like, I think, you know, there might be people out there listening to this that are studying fashion at the moment, and it is like an amazing sort of incubator period to really grow into your strengths and like realise what is your USP, and colour was that for me. So I remember having a crit with my tutor, and he basically had a go at me for wearing black socks because I was in a full colour outfit. And, you know, we're meant to be critiquing the designs that I've just done and we're trying on, but he was like, you're in all this colour, why are you wearing those black socks? And I just hadn't thought about it. I was like, they're just socks. And I was like, oh God, yeah, I get it now. Like, if I'm going to be fully me and colour. So then I, you know, started buying colourful socks, and I suppose it led on from that. And yeah, the point of discovery of creating colour confidence came, it was actually maybe like 3 years ago, I think. And it was, I'd just been sort of living that way and known as that person that wore colour. And I just found the words for it, I suppose. But yeah, colour just gives me so much happiness. And I suppose I love that fact. I love the fact that I can like brighten up someone's day by wearing yellow or green or just something that's slightly out of the ordinary.
And I also just really want to touch upon your wedding because it was incredible, like very, very Instagrammable. How much of that did you create? Like, describe what you wore and try and paint a bit of a picture of what it looked like for people.
Yeah, my wedding, I mean, I think this sounds bad, but like I'm over the stress of it now. I mean, it was absolutely the best thing ever, like, to plan. Because it gave me the opportunity to design things that you never ever would get the chance to, and also the money to spend on it as well, because I suppose everyone always has like a little pot of money in their head that they would reserve to spending on a dress. So it gave me the opportunity to do the print I wanted, or, you know, test out the style that I wanted and things. So yeah, my wedding, I suppose, was a mismatch of every colour possible. We actually even had like 2 weddings, which sounds quite diva-ish, but we had a legal wedding on the Wednesday before, which we had to do because the actual venue that we got married in was basically just a barn, so you couldn't legally have that on your wedding certificate or anything. So yeah, we did it in a registry office, which I really didn't want to do. I just thought it's going to be ugly. They're always just like shitty chairs and like really weird rooms. So I was like, okay, we need to make this as fun as possible. So I wanted it to be kind of Las Vegas in terms of fashion. And I asked everyone to wear pink and sequins. And I designed myself a sequin dress with pink ruffles and iridescent sequins. I made myself a pink and pearl kind of headpiece, and I had a pink veil with pearls on as well. And thankfully my now husband is actually, you know, very, very very used to me dressing him, and he also wore a sequin blazer and a pink tie and pink trousers, and I mean, we looked great. We definitely cheered people up that day. It was really nice that we were, because the registry office was in the middle of a town, you know, you had definitely people looking at us like we're nutters, but so many people came up to us, like the whole group of us, and said that we cheered them up. So yeah, that was day 1 of the weddings. And then on the Saturday we had the main wedding, and that was, I suppose, more of our family was there, and that was when we were going to have the meal and stuff. But that was a multicolored dress, which I designed the print for and the shape. And I developed that with a pattern cutter and like seamstress team to get, I suppose, what I really wanted, which I think is also really stressful in terms of weddings anyway. Like, there's way too much pressure put on the fact that it's like maybe going to be the only dress that you ever wear, which might be another reason why I tried to put every single colour, every flower, everything on it, because I was like, I can't miss out on anything.
That's incredible. I very much enjoyed listening, looking at it on Instagram. I was just like, I was sending it to Catherine at Future Retail and be like, are you seeing this? It's so amazing. And so going back to like the high street side of things, what do you think? Actually, I'm going to rephrase this. Some brands are scared of doing plus size ranges because they're scared of doing it wrong. What advice would you give to them as a designer and a plus size woman for those brands to make sure that they do it properly?
I think it's really hard. There's definitely so much pressure on getting things right. Yeah, definitely. Just try. I know that doesn't like help, but okay, if I actually give you the proper tips, I think to get people on board that actually have lived a life in a bigger body is really, really important. And, you know, different people in different bodies, because actually living at a size 18 is incredibly different to how I now live as a size 24, but also how you would live as a size 30. And if you're going to offer all of those sizes, I think you do have to kind of get an understanding of what that type of person needs. I think you need to, I suppose, really understand what you want to provide for that person. And I think what's actually really important to me is if you're picking and choosing, which most brands do, I that's where I'm like, I don't like it as much, because you will always, I suppose, be excluding someone in that way. I think it's much easier for a smaller brand to do it, because you could just expand all of your size range rather than choosing maybe a smaller section. Like we've said, like basics, just actually really, really, really research what's on the market. Because actually so many people that I talk to that are in the fashion industry haven't even heard of, so there's a brand called like Navabi, which is a plus size brand, and in our world, in like a plus size person's world, it's actually a really big brand. Like, they sell so many different brands on there, and they also have their own stuff. But it is such a different world, because we've lived really excluded from the fashion world. I suppose we've built our own world, and you really need to understand what's going on in there. I would say like follow as many plus size influencers and bloggers as possible, and like get their opinion. Just start talking about it maybe before you do it. I think without the lived experience, you're never going to get it. I also think fit is quite important. To think about the areas where on a plus size body it might change. I think this is where I always feel like it's really hypocritical at times, because I'm probably someone that wouldn't wear, say, a spaghetti strap because of my size, because I wanted to wear a bra strap that I'd like to cover with a thicker strap. But then that's my opinion, whereas I also know lots of plus size girls that wouldn't mind wearing no bra, and they would have a really, really tiny strap, and that would be fine. So literally in that sentence, I think that explains to you that you're probably not going to get it right for some people. But trying, honestly, is so much better than not. And I think you'll get so much interest, because this is one thing I always come back to, like money. There's so much money out there available that you can tap into. It's just try. Like, we're ready and listening, we're waiting.
And I guess lastly, what tips would you give to people who are looking to inject a little bit of colour confidence into their wardrobe, or even just confidence in what they put on in the morning to make themselves feel better, or like as we were saying when we came up the stairs, I was just like, I feel like I've got really boring as I've got older, and like the choices that I make, and like maybe buying secondhand, I feel a bit more free buying that for some reason. So yeah, what tips would you give around that?
I think it's all about personal style, and that's where I suppose experimentation can help. Like, if you're not colourful, it really doesn't matter. Just finding your own thing is right. But I suppose if you wanted to experiment within colour, I always think it's really easy to just, I suppose, like think about a colour that makes you really happy. Like whether that's a colour that you maybe even have in your home already or something like that. And I suppose buy maybe a smaller thing or something that you could, this sounds silly, but you could take off if it feels a little bit intimidating. So a scarf or something like that. And yeah, hair clips. And yeah, just I suppose try introduce it into your wardrobe slowly. And then maybe it will just become like easier for you, and you'll feel that you're in your natural habitat when you're in the colour. But also I think it's really good to follow people on Instagram or wherever you find your research, people that are wearing colour, because actually in our day-to-day life, like everyone's in black or navy or a suit or something, and it definitely takes a lot to stand out, because you do, like, I'm really used to walking past people now and thinking, oh, they've given me a funny look. But it doesn't mean it's a bad funny look. Like, I think, yeah, I think realizing that it's also totally okay to stand out if you feel comfortable in what you're wearing. It is just, I suppose, it takes a lot of time, I think, to like gradually push your own boundaries as to what you think you can actually wear. But just keep trying, and I think the confidence grows and you won't even have realized.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, that was a purely selfish question at the end. And if people want to stay in touch with you, how can they do that?
So you can follow me over on Instagram at Sara Brown Design. That's more of a personal Instagram, but I talk a lot about fashion on there, and also colour and styling. And then, yeah, it'd be great if you can also find me at DollyRocket_London, where my brand is. So as we're recording this, I've only really launched as, I suppose, a slow launch, and I'm in the process of sampling and getting things going, but it's going to be out there soon.